Hello and welcome to the Lives Transformed podcast. We're going to say this is season two because we've been gone for quite a few months because summer happened and we all got real busy. I am joined today by.
Dylan. Hello, everybody.
He's a very good friend of mine and he's been a long time staff at Camp Evergreen, right? How long have you
Uh,
worked here for?
this will be year number 4, and this is my longest year because I'm actually sticking around for fall.
Yeah, which has been wonderful. Very excited to have you here for the fall.
hmm This is
Uh,
the first time I've been in your closet, so that's fun.
Yeah, keen-eyed viewers. Most of our viewers are Germans, so you all have very keen eyes. You'll probably notice that the location has changed. Same building, different location. We just wanted to have a door, and it makes everything look a little bit nicer on the outside. So yeah, maybe if we get enough comments, we will give you a tour of the podcast studio.
You spin the camera all of like 20 degrees, and
Yeah,
you got
pretty
the whole
much.
thing.
uh, yeah, yeah. So season two. Normally season twos are like full of bigger twists and turns. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I know last time we talked to mainly Germans that had never been here for the summer. So they didn't have the same kind of stories. So that's going to hopefully be different this time because everyone's been here for a summer now. But like I said, most of our viewers are from Germany, according to our logistics on YouTube.
Analytics.
Analytics and logistics. Uh, but yeah, so Dylan, the first question I'm going to ask you is if German were to come and be like, "Hey, Dylan, where should we go, like touristy? Where would you send them?"
Oh man, that wasn't on the script. Where would I send? Honestly, the Rocky Mountains. They're my favorite part of Canada, and they're gorgeous. Um, The Alps are gorgeous too. You guys have beautiful mountains, but there's something about being up on top of a granite summit and looking around and seeing maybe two roads and no people and being the only human being other than the people you're hiking with for the nearest 30 kilometers or more.
Yeah, it's actually really sweet. So one thing, every time I see pictures of like Germans like climbing mountains in Germany, and in the background you see like towns and villages and roads, I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
man, they're not nearly as isolated as we are.
No, I had the privilege of actually going to the Tauernhof, Capenray in Austria, right out of grade 12, and I got to hike around the Dockstein in that area near Schladming, which some of the viewers may know of, and probably know how badly I've mispronounced everything about that area. But it was gorgeous, and the grass grows right up to the like very tops of the mountains, which I think was the weirdest thing for me was seeing grass on top of a mountain. But the wilderness and that sense of wild and untamed uh, nature just doesn't exist there like it does here. And I think that was the part I missed most about our mountains when I was going around in the Alps.
Yeah,
Come to Canada, like forget about people.
yeah. Yeah, we enjoy our wide open spaces.
Yes, introverts are always welcome.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, you have a camp name.
I do have a
Uh,
camp name, yeah.
we've had very few people on that have camp names. What is your camp name?
My camp name is Saber, as
And
in the sword.
as in the sword,
Sabre.
not Sabre.
Not Sabre, despite some people's attempts at making that my name.
And saber, like the sword, also like Star Wars, right?
Yes, lightsaber. That was a big one. Um, and then the fact that after I got that camp name, I went out and found a replica saber,
Yes.
which is really just a piece of garbage because I got it at Value Village, but yeah,
Yeah, at least it was cheap.
it was cheap. It was like $10.
Nice, nice. So you've been here for 4 years. So you've eaten a lot of food here at Camp Evergreen.
That I have.
What would you say is your favorite meal at camp?
See, it's a bit of a boring answer because you don't have to have come to camp for this to be obvious, but it's pizza because we make our own pizzas. The kitchen
Yes.
has always made their own pizzas, and the meat lovers are fantastic. Especially Stephanie, she likes to put on like a lot of cheese, so it's cheesy and meaty and all kinds of delicious. Um, but like for summer, because I'm usually on out trips, we don't have pizza like you guys up at main site. So I think my favorite meal on out trips in the summer would have to be hobos, which I have to explain because we don't eat people in Canada, despite rumors. What hobos are you take basically meat, usually ground beef, potatoes, butter, or I actually use leftover bacon grease from the week. And you throw that all in with a veggie mix of celery and carrots and whatever other leftovers you have from the week. And once you do all that, you throw it in tinfoil. You butter, or in my case, grease the outside of the tinfoil so it doesn't burn. And then you throw that right into the center of a fire that you have set to keep you warm at night. You let it sit there for like 5, 8 minutes, cook all the way through, pull it out, rip open the tinfoil, and it's one of the most delicious meals to have at the end of the week.
It is amazing. And the best part is we call it hobos. And the kids are all like, "What are hobos? What are hobos?" And normally when I do hobos, I pull out all the leftovers. So
Mm-hmm.
hobos can really be anything you want. So I'd be like,
Absolutely.
"Hey, guess what hobos are?" And they're like, "Waffles, spaghetti." And you can just say yes to everything because that's what it is.
Where I've never made my kids eat spaghetti in their hobos.
I haven't tried it. I made burrito hobos once. We had leftover tortillas.
Ooh,
Those were fantastic.
we had leftover chips, which we crushed
Ooh,
up and put
yes.
inside. That was good.
That'd be good. Like a
The ones on
warm
the
taco
outside got a
salad.
little soggy, so I'd recommend putting them in afterwards.
Yeah, yeah,
But it was good.
yeah. And I saw that Camp Chef, which makes our outdoor cooking, not furnaces, stoves.
Stoves? Yeah.
They have pizza ovens that you can put on them and work off propane.
What?
Yeah. So pizza might be a reality eventually at the out trips.
It would take so long to make, though.
It would.
It already takes so long to make all the food and keep the children alive.
It's true. So if you like cooking in the outdoors, you should come to Camp Evergreen and cook for the out trips.
Please. We need more people who know how to cook outdoors or be willing to learn how to cook outdoors. That would also be sweet.
I think some of the best meals are made at the out trips for sure.
Everything tastes better outside.
It's true. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So you've done mainly out trips. Do you have a favorite out trip?
Man, do I have a favorite outro? I have to say, um, all the out trips are special in their own right. I haven't gotten to do wilds, which is one of the new ones we've started as of this year. But I think if I had to choose a favorite, it would be adventure camp. It's usually older kids, junior to senior high, and I think the reason I like it so much is that it involves a lot of the older kid activities like paintball and zip line. We do horseback riding. Um, but you get the full camp experience. Like there's charge, which is just paintball, and while paintball I love, after 2 or 3 weeks you start to remember that there are other activities, and you're like, man, other activities. What are those? So I just enjoy adventure because usually it's a little bit more low key. You get more time to really hang out with the kids. Uh, it's been some of the places, or some of the places, well, it's been the place where I've gone to build some of the most deep relationships with the kids and still get to do all the fun things because there's so much downtime that is meant for the kids to hang out together, experience the outdoors. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've ever led adventure because we put it in place after
It was 3 years ago.
yeah,
Yeah, because I think I was on the first adventure.
yeah, Yeah, and we usually go hiking in the Yaha. I take
Oh
the
man,
kids
and
there.
yeah,
That's
the hike in
fun.
the Yaha is also the best part, but we didn't do that this year. Man, though every so often you get kids that come out that didn't realize that hiking was part of the itinerary because they didn't read the website, and then you're like, with one hand you're dragging half of the like super eager kids back away from the cliffs. Well, there's not really cliffs that we go near, but they're just trying to explore all of the forest, and with the other hand you're dragging half of the kids that are like, I want to go home. But
Yeah.
it's still the best. Like getting to go to the Yaha Tinda, which have you told anybody what the Yaha is, or do they think we're just saying weird English words?
No, we have discussed the Yaha Tenda,
Okay.
with the past Germans
Hmm.
and their wild adventures in the
Oh
Yaha.
yeah. Well, we got up to a few of those ourselves.
It's true.
You still haven't forgiven me for the waterfall incident.
Yeah. Uh, walking above the waterfall.
Yes.
Yeah. So, do you have any, since you've been here for 4 years and stuff, you probably have acquired fun, silly stories. Do you have any
Oh
that you
yes.
want to tell?
Um, I'll tell two real quick ones. I think the one that was really because half of the stories are about staff. I think one of the big things that kids miss out on is the fact that the staff are figuring things out at the same time as the kids are half the time, and you
Yeah.
just pretend that you're in charge and know exactly what's happening the whole time, which is just life. But one of the funny stories about kids was we have grouse. Especially, this was roughing it. So we have two big teepees, and then we have a whole little wooded area back behind the teepees that has some fenced in portions. So we let the kids know what the boundaries are, and then we just let them loose in the forest uh, at different times of the day. They're always within earshot. But one time, us leaders, it's just after lunch, we send the kids out to the woods while we take all the dishes and are getting them ready to get done, and we're fixing up everything. And they can't have been gone for more than 3 or 4 minutes before we just hear this like hooting and hollering and screaming, and we're like, oh, they're playing some kind of game, they're really getting into it. And like, because it doesn't sound like people are hitting each other or they're angry at all, it just sounds like excited. So we don't pay it much mind until 20 seconds later, like 5 kids bolt out of the woods and they're yelling at us, and it's like, Saber, Saber, the angry chicken is coming to get us. So they had found a grouse that was nesting, and they had just accidentally wandered into the area. And the grouse had just flared its wings and like made loud noises and kind of run at them a little bit. And it happened twice that week. They walked by it, and every time it was the angry chicken, very angry chicken, and they were scared to death of it. And I think at one point we were like, "Eat your vegetables, or the angry chicken will come get you." That was a good one. The other one was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. Which was it was week 6, I believe, of summer. So 6 weeks of constantly looking after kids, late nights, fun weeks, full weeks. And so we were out on roughing it again, and it was me and a bunch of guys that were really experienced. So we were all very confident that it was going to be a great week. The kids were awesome. And it's on the last night, the night that we're having hobos, actually. And overconfidence and stupidity met in this unholy blend that maxed out on Thursday night. So I decided that tinfoil, obviously, because we're using it to cook, is a great, insulator and not a conductor at all. I'm gonna wrap my hand in 2 layers, only two, of tinfoil, and that's gonna be my oven mitt. And I'm gonna reach into the fire with tinfoil covering my hand to pull what must be 450 degrees Celsius uh, tinfoil and cooked stuff out of the fire. Don't do this, please, ever. It was a very bad idea. Um, but I can't be the only one that's blamed because another one of the guys, his camp name was Gurky. Gurky also thought this was a good idea, but he fortunately had the foresight, and like some part of his brain was working that day. It's like, hold on, let me just grab it out of the fire first with tongs, so you don't want to have your hand in there longer than necessary. And I was like, oh, that's fair. So he grabs it out of the fire with the tongs, piping hot, like whistling and popping and like smoke and stuff coming out from the inside from all the stuff that's cooking. And he's like, are you sure this is a good idea? I'm like, yeah, just give it to me. And fortunately, I went to grab it from him, so I only ended up burning these 2 fingers. But I just felt searing hot pain, whipped my hand away, and I was like, okay, put it off to the side. I'm going to the creek. And then I sat in the creek for 45 minutes just with my hand in the water, regretting all of the things. So, yeah, we have some mishaps when staff are not being the most responsible. Um,
Or when you've had a tiring week.
when you've had a tiring week, that was, yeah. The worst part was because of the fact that I then went up to the nurse to report it, I had to write an incident report on myself. So I had to write out an explanation to the executive director at the time of exactly what I had done and why I had done it. And I remember at the time it was Bob Croker. I remember the wrap up that week, the next day, sitting down, and we do a whole bunch of stuff at the end of the week just to get set up for the next set of kids. And while I'm sitting there, Bob Croker just comes by the table and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he was like, "Okay. You gonna try that again?" "No." "Okay." And then he just kind of moved on. But you could hear him laughing on the inside the whole time because he thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious too after a while. But
I think the best part was with the grouse. Our outro director came up and during one of the morning like staff meetings was like, "Yeah, the everything's good down there except there's a angry turkey down there attacking the kids." And we all like, "Wait, what? An angry turkey?
yeah, we
That
don't have
doesn't make
turkeys.
any sense. It's probably a grouse."
Yeah. Turkey would be a lot scarier.
A,
I'd be scared if a turkey
a
was going after the
turkey
kids.
would be a lot scarier.
Uh,
Yeah, man, those are those were good times. I remember
mhm.
hearing those stories.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful.
And there's a bunch, but if we were just to tell all the funny stories that I've had in 4 years, we'd be here for the next 3 hours.
Yeah, we need to save that for future podcasts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you've also probably there's funny stories, but there's also like stories about lives being transformed.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have some of those stories as well, being here for 4 years,
Yeah,
and it is the name of the podcast. So we should probably
it's
get
true.
some of
Yeah.
those stories.
Well, my life was transformed when I touched that paper, that tinfoil. Let me tell you. Um, no, but I think that's one of the most rewarding parts about camp, and one of the reasons I've always come back and wanted to come back is the fact that we as Christians are told to go out to the world, but it's a whole nother thing to have the world come to you and to have, for lack of a better term, a captive audience of kids. But the kids are never, I think I've only had like 1 or 2 kids that were ever like too cool for school and like didn't care about it. I think every single time I've ever like done devos with the kids, they have always paid attention. There have been such amazing questions. Um, but if there were two examples that I'll give, we're going with the rule of 2 today. Um, the one story is from 2 years ago. It was 2019, and it was the 7th week. It was Roughing It Boys. I think it was the last Roughing It, and I was just exhausted. So I was like doing devos and talking with the kids about God, but like I just did not figure out a way to connect with the kids that well that week. I was so tired that I just like anytime I had off time, I would be napping. I was just exhausted. And at the end of the week, I went to God and I was like, man, I am so sorry that I did not do you proud this week. I was those were some of the worst devos I've ever done. Like my head was out of it almost entirely. My heart was in it still, but I don't know. I was thinking about I had let the lie of, like performance get into my head. The idea that, God works through us, yes, but like we're the ones that are talking and everything. And that was the week that at the end of the week, as we're getting all the kids ready to get signed out by their parents, and their parents are just starting to pull into the parking lot, one of my boys runs up to me and is like, "Hey, Saber, I want a Bible." I was like, "We got you a Bible, because we give Bibles out to kids that don't have Bibles at home." So this kid did not come from a Christian background or anything, but he's like, "No, no, no, I want a Bible for my friend." So, no, okay. So we went and we're on our way to like grab him a Bible. He's like, "But can I also have I want 5 Bibles?" And we're like, "For what?" And he's like, "Oh, because I want a Bible for my dad and a Bible for my mom, and then I want a Bible for I can't remember if it was a sister or brother, but he wanted a Bible for all of his family members and then 2 of his friends." And I was kind of looking at him like, "You're just collecting Bibles because you think it's a cool book." Um,
Which is a cool book.
it is a cool book. I mean, more along the lines of you will sometimes have kids if you come out here who are like, "Wow, a book that is mine. I would like another book that is mine." And it's less to do with the Bible and more to do with the fact that it's a book. But this kid was just adamant. He was like, "No, I need this, and I want to know where a church is." So we ended up getting him in touch with a church, and he ended up bringing home. I think he ended up bringing home 7 Bibles because he just took an extra one in case on top of the one that he already had. Uh, and the next week, at the end of the week, at the end of summer, we found out that because of that kid bringing home all those Bibles and having such a experience at camp, his family, which had never gone into a church before, were regularly attending a church. And not only that, but they are now actively serving in that church and are one of like the most like regular members. And I remember sitting down at the end of that day and being like, "Okay, God, that was all you." And just remembering the fact that God is the one who works, not us.
Yeah.
And we just answer the call.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fantastic like story. I think anyone who's like gotten our newsletters and stuff have probably heard that story before because it's one of our favorites to tell here at camp. But yeah, man, you just never know what little like seed is planted and how
Mm-hmm.
God is gonna grow that seed.
Yeah, and that was like a big story of like huge change. That's not always how it is. The second story I have is actually of a kid who I led no, I think it was 4 years ago. I think my first year I led him. Um, and he was on Roughing It. And so he was like grade 5 or something like that. And so he like super ADHD, super impulsive, fought with the other kids, was difficult to really like sit down and talk to at a lot of times, but with zero Christian background. And for the first half of the week, he paid attention in Devos, but he was not overly interested in like what we were talking about Jesus and stuff like that. He was more like, "But would God be able to move a stone if he'd made the stone that was so big that God couldn't move it?" And it was all these kind of like trick questions that he wanted to have answered. But about halfway through the week, and for the last half of the week, as we're talking about what Jesus does for us and Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, it was like a switch had been flipped. And he started really coming up with these like deep questions. By the end of it, he actually wanted to be baptized at the end of the week.
Wow.
Um, but he was, again, this is his whole personality and character is very impulsive. So we sat him down, talked with him about what it meant. And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I want to get baptized." We ended up calling his parents. His parents came over and they had never heard of baptism in their lives. Um, I don't know whether or not he actually got baptized, but I did have the fortune of leading that same kid actually this year.
Oh wow.
He came back, and so he Um, again, uh, strongly impulsive. Um, trying to figure out who God was, because in grade 5 you can have a childlike faith, but as you grow older, um, that childlikeness begins to fade, and you start to realize that faith is difficult. Um, and so he had been struggling with God, and so he had been trying to figure out signs from God, and he had again zero Christian influence. Whatever had I don't know what happened to the Bible we sent him home with, but it was gone. And so he had main thing, and I just got to sit down with him, I think on Wednesday of the week, and we just sat and talked for like about an hour and a half. And it was after he'd been in a fight with some of the kids, and the kids were starting to get tired of him because he had been really aggressive with a lot of them and just was not willing to hear other people's side of the story a lot of times. So we just sat down, we talked, and he ended up like just telling me all of these things all at once and all the struggles he'd been going through, and the fact that he was starting to get pretty certain that God didn't exist, because after like so long of trying to talk to God, God hadn't said anything in return. And so I ended up opening the Bible and talking to him about how God uses people, more often than not, to speak to us, and how he uses his word, and how he's not looking for like sacrifices and stuff. um Kid didn't sacrifice anything, but it was stuff like he had heard about Gideon, so he would go out and like put a rag on the ground and be like, have that be wet and everything else be dry. Um, so he was trying stuff like that, and eventually I got to the point where, or not I, he got to the point where he's like, yeah, if nothing happens in the next few days, like this is Bible camp. If God doesn't do anything here, I don't know what will. Um, but at the end of it, we did testimony night. So we do our regular devos talking about Jesus and the gospel, basically laying out the gospel for 4 days. And then on the last night, we usually do a testimony night where we leaders talk about what experiences we've had with God and how God has been working in our lives. And after testimony night, he runs up to one of the leaders and just says, I want to get to know Jesus more because all of your stories, and I hadn't really told them too much about it yet because I hadn't had much time to sit down and explain to them everything that he had been going through, because he'd revealed that to me, and I didn't want obviously any of the other leaders going to him and talking to him about that stuff, because that would tell him that I wasn't honoring the fact that he didn't want me to share that with everybody. So he went to one of them, and their testimonies that night, I ended up being somewhere else. I can't remember for what reason in particular, but almost all of their testimonies were about how God had spoken to them in ways that they hadn't expected, and how they had waited for God and God had pulled through. And that for him, it was like, there's no way all of you would have told those stories if God hadn't been trying to say something to me. And so he ended up rededicating his life to Christ there. And we sent him home with another Bible. And I don't know where he is now or what he's doing with his faith, but I have seen like how God has been working in his life, even through some of the stories that he was telling, in ways that I could see God at work where he couldn't. And it's really cool that I got to be just a small part of that story, because God's doing things with that kid.
That's sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, those are the stories that are we like to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, so good. It's amazing just seeing how God moves too. Like you guys had had not planned any of that, but God uses what little we have to
Mm-hmm.
further His kingdom.
Yeah, definitely. And just getting to see the ways that God works and completely unexpectedly. Like
Yeah,
I've seen like genuine miracles occur at camp, which have been mind-blowing because like a lot of the younger staff, when they've been around me at the time, they're like, that stuff still happens. I didn't think that happened. uh like praying against weather so that we could have a talk, and like the rain literally stops around us and we can see where it's still raining on either side of us, and then we finish our talk for the night and the rain comes back. um I've seen thunderstorms split in half around camp and reform on the other side when we've prayed for days of good weather. And those are just some of the like mild things that I've seen God do. It's truly remarkable what the Lord has done here at Evergreen.
Yeah. And hopefully continues to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you stuck around for fall,
Yeah.
and then once you go back home, what are your plans?
My plan is I graduated last year. Well, not last year. This year, but like way back in like spring, summerish. Graduated from my bachelor's degree. Uh, and I now go back next year for my master's. In between then, it's mostly work and figuring out where God is calling me in my future. And God did a lot this year to change what my plans for the future were. That's for sure. So just figuring out what that entails and where God is pulling me now.
Yeah, hopefully it's back to camp.
Hopefully. I mean,
Yeah.
God pulled me back to camp this year. I actually thought that this year I would be starting already at this point in time, or even back for spring and summer. I thought that I was going to be starting into something more along the lines of a future career, even just getting my feet into the industry of architecture is what I'm studying. But I knew that I had a gap year, and I've seen how God has worked in my life and how things have never gone nearly as smoothly for me when I try to do things and then seek God's help, as opposed to seek God's direction first and then make plans. So I just laid down one night after reading the Bible and thinking about what I was going to do for this gap year that I'm taking. I was like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I'm pretty sure that this is what I should be doing because this is, like your general career plan and like this is what would be smart. Uh, but you are the king of my life. What do you want me to do? Show me the way. If there's nothing that comes up, like you don't show me anything, I'll just keep going with this plan. Uh, and we'll work from there. And I woke up the next morning, looked over at my phone, and there was a text from Lane, one of our directors, who was like, "Hey, we need more Outtrip staff this summer." I was like, sometimes the Lord works in mysterious ways, but not today. So I thought last year was my last year at camp, but nope. And even if I don't come back for any more full-time seasons and like almost a full year again, I'll definitely be coming back to volunteer when I can.
Nice. Yeah. Outtrip director next year.
Ooh.
Could be in charge of all of it.
Oh boy. That's basically what I was this year, though.
Yeah.
Not quite, but
Yeah, we didn't have an outtrip director.
no. We had two people that had done out trips before, so we co-led that, but I was the one in spring who was getting everything set up for out trips.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully this summer was also weird just in scheduling, and it wasn't very much like a normal summer. So
No.
hopefully next summer will be much more normal.
No, we have also prepared a lot for next summer. Next summer is going to be very smooth.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to next summer. We have some fun ideas, some big plans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so architecture. Is there a certain type of architecture that you like? Like when you
Man.
look at the buildings in Canada, in Calgary, you're like, that's a cool building, or
Oh, that
that's
like styles of
yeah,
architecture
styles of
as opposed to
architecture.
types. Those are two different things.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Types are more like what kind of stuff you are building. Styles are what do the things you build look like.
Uh,
Um, I'm actually a really big fan of like your old European stuff. So like Gothic, very big fan of. But I actually like modern. Like, you have to do it well, but even if it's just a bunch of straight edges, I don't like good modern has depth. So there are things that jut out with balconies, and then it's all organized well, and there's a theme to the organization. Just the like flat on all sides, I hate with a fervent passion.
pretty much every school in Calgary.
Yeah, no, I would actually love to build schools, libraries, like public institutions like that, and like make beautiful places for the public to gather.
Nice. Yeah. So if anyone out there knows of an architecture firm that is hiring, contact Dylan
In 2 years when I'm done my master's, anyways,
when he becomes a master of architecture.
and ready to be an intern.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much. I don't know when this is actually going to air,
Hmm.
but we'll probably be hiring staff. We're looking at hiring staff. Uh, what is one thing that you, as a staff, would want to say to a future staff member?
Man, there's a lot. Um, and it all depends. Everybody has different reasons to come to camp and different doubts or fears that hold them back from coming to camp. Um, Whatever the doubts and fears are that people have that hold them back from really wanting to come to camp, I think the biggest thing I would want to say is that I would encourage you that God is bigger than them. You are not doing things alone here at camp. You are with a team of people that know what they're doing. You're with a great team of management that care about you, and it's a Christian workplace. You are brothers and sisters in Christ working together for Christ's vision. I can't think of a better way to spend a summer and spring. Um, if you are looking for work experience, if you're looking to experience Canada or explore the world, figure out things, looking to grow deeper in your faith, um, if you plan on going into anything that involves children and you want to know how whether or not you're cut out for taking care of children, um, or if you want to grow in patience, love, and the ability to care about others and to put their needs ahead of your own, camp is the place to learn those things. It is it is not easy. Um, it is the easiest hard job I've ever had. Because the job is not easy, but being able to go through it with a community, being able to do it in the service of the Lord, and having that Christian surroundings, and being able to know that what I do serves the Lord directly, and really leaning in on Him. There has never been a time where I've regretted being at camp. No matter whether it means that, my plans get moved to the side or things don't go quite the way I expect. If I have done nothing in my life but tell those kids about Christ, my life was well worth the living.
Yeah, very well spoken. Nice. So if you're thinking about a job for spring and summer, look out for the applications.
Yeah,
They usually come out around January 1st.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you in Europe, syrup is delicious, and I'm sorry everything that you know about syrup is wrong. Um, the only good stuff is here. I've been where you are, and it's not good. I'm sorry.
It's very true.
So come out for the maple syrup. Come for Christ, stay for syrup. Lives transformed.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming out. Thanks for telling us your stories.
Hmm.
We'll have to talk again, get more stories.
Absolutely.
Nice. And for everyone out there watching, please hit that subscribe button, because then you'll get more of these sweet stories.
Hmm.
And let Dylan know that you like his facial hair. So hit the like button there. Yeah.
You can like it if you don't like my facial hair as well. And make sure you hit that notification bell just in case you don't get the alerts from YouTube and the algorithm hides us from your feed.
Which at the moment we're so small that it's probably being hidden unless you're subscribed. So
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here,
Absolutely. It was a pleasure.
and we'll see you guys later.